The last time I think we chatted in person was with your cast at Comic-Con, and it was a madhouse. Let's be honest. Sometimes in a group setting, I look to someone as like the voice of reason.
Like your anchor?
You were my anchor, buddy.
I was your anchor?
You were my
anchor. Josh, dude, I had no idea that we had this connection. This was so one way. I'm so sorry.
Rude.
I thought I was. No. I feel like I'm the anchor in those settings sometimes, but I don't feel that anyone ever notices me. So like, I'm just touched that I was seen.
You were seen. Do you feel like generally on sets, are you the mature one? Are you kind of like the guy that like settles folks, or?
I try not to be. I try to be like the undercover mature one, because if you're just like the mature one, that's no fun, especially not in kind of Chaos, the movie that is Dungeons and Dragons. I feel like we were fostering our chaos magic energy as much as we could. I think that you were the recipient of that, to which we can either say, I'm so sorry, or like, hey, that was fun.
I loved it.
Somewhere between the two. I feel like that's what we were trying to channel for the movie. So you kind of learn to lean into it and know that you're in good hands, because anchors can either hold you down or they can kind of pull the whole thing back. You got to have just the right level of weight.
It's an amazing ensemble, and one on paper you're like, how do these mesh together? And yet somehow it works, and it's so fun.
The fact you don't have an answer, that's why the movie works. It's that unexpected piece of like, these chemicals shouldn't go together, and they explode in ways and produce colors that you wouldn't have imagined beforehand, and that's why it works.
I have to say, look, it's tough to steal scenes from the likes of Chris Pine and Hugh Grant. You're great in this, man. This is a really fun role. You are, although I will say, look, you have to be kind of the straight man. You can't, it looks like you can't have fun. Like, this character is not having fun. So
the character's not having fun,
but you're having fun.
The fun thing, yeah, I'm having the time of my life, dude. I mean, like I said, first and foremost, you get to lean on Chris, you get to lean on Michelle, like, you get to lean on folks who know what they're doing and who are so freaking sharp that you know that you will be caught if you're falling. Or if they're not gonna catch you, they'll kind of shove you down quicker to make it funnier. Right. But either way, someone knows what they're doing as you're kind of going through this. But also, it's known that John and Jonathan have been so smart with this that it's almost a straight man inversion. So like, Zenk is the hero you expect to find in this movie. He's a literal knight in shining armor. But he's not the straight man. He's so righteous that he's ridiculous. And so he becomes the weird character, and the straight man is Chris Pine. And so Chris and I are kind of doing this little do-si-do of who's playing the straight man at any given moment, you know what I mean?
I do worry, though, the ramifications on the day-to-day life for you, because when you play a quote-unquote kind of perfect human being, you're only going to disappoint human beings. Look, you're a great dude. You're charming, you're wonderful, but you can only disappoint.
Perfect. On a scale of 1 to 10, how disappointed are you feeling right now, John? What are you trying to tell me?
Well, when you said we weren't each other's anchor, it went down to like a 4. We were at an 8, and then you ruined it.
I ruined it. I swiped it out from under your feet. I mean, I think I was trying to protect myself from those expectations. You know what I mean?
I get it.
You were my anchor in that room.
Tell me this, on a set like this, what's the ratio of feeling cool to feeling like an idiot? Because you have this amazing wardrobe, you have the sword, and yet you also have this like probably very cumbersome wardrobe and this very heavy sword and this probably tennis balls at times. So like, give me a ratio. Like, are you feeling like this is awesome, or like, oh my God, this is insane make-believe and I feel like a dork right now?
I think it's a false premise. All is one. You have to kind of let go of feeling cool and knowing that the idiocy is what's cool about it. You know what I mean? You kind of have to release into, there is no cool in this. It's about embracing how goofy this is, about embracing the fact that you are doing a sword fight in a cape and it's gonna fly over your head for half of these takes, but also that's kind of half the fun of what we're doing. Mostly, it was less feeling cool and just feeling very, very sweaty. That's what the armor does to you. It's knowing that you're going through take after take after take of these pretty intense fight sequences, but in armor that was not made to keep you. This is not like a Nike base layer. This is just like, knights are sweaty.
Generally speaking, how are you? Like, what's your action cred? Like, how well do you take to action scenes on like a scale of me to Keanu Reeves' John Wick? Where are you in terms of your action skills?
I mean, I don't know where you're at with your action skills. I don't know where this scale lies. I'm assuming that you're basically Batman, so this is a very, very small scale.
Now you're overcompensating on our relationship. I'm 0, John Wick 10. So where are you
You look
at?
very comfortable in your skin. I'm assuming this dude's got skills somewhere. I don't know where I'd fall in that scale. I think that's something that you'd have to answer for me because you've seen the action scenes. But in terms of how much I enjoy them, like this is my happy place. I spent 3 to 4 hours in the stunt tent every day that I wasn't shooting, and that was kind of where I got to just kind of get it out. Sometimes I'm like a dog that needs to be taken for a walk. I need to just kind of run through all the energy that I've got on set, especially when I'm being the stick in the mud, where I have to be the straight man in these scenes. And I had the time of my life. Like, I was happiest when I was swinging that sword around, when I was kind of doing these action sequences, when I was doing my best to keep my stuntman off the set because I wanted to do as much of this as possible. How successful I was, I don't know. It's probably a secret that John and Jonathan will take to their graves, but I can see a fair amount of me in there.
We can't say this is your fantasy genre debut. I mean, can we say you're a Harry Potter veteran? Are we allowed to say that?
I mean, again, I gotta kind of let the people decide on that one. I was present. It's not like I did much there. I walked around for a month at a wedding. Yeah. Let's go with that. Fantasy veteran. I like it. I like the ring of it.
So for context, you were in Deathly Hallows, and a very early role, needless to say. How exciting a moment was that for you, though, as a young actor?
Role is pushing it. It was background work on Harry Potter.
Hey, it's a credit.
It was immensely helpful. Like, I would put in my head that comes under training rather than credits, because the joy of being a background actor is that no one pays attention to you. You're basically scenery, which means that it's the perfect position to spy from. And so I was just watching how the actors were working. I was watching how the directors interacted with the actors. I was watching where Emma Watson hit her phone between takes. You know, it was just like seeing all the little tricks of the trade, watching how people processed direction between takes. Some folks needed to be talking the whole time to keep their machine running. Other folks had ways of finding their own little space. Other folks were just on their phones the whole time. And it was just seeing how that worked, like knowing what the rhythm of a day is, seeing how exhausting it could be, and seeing what a set of this size and magnitude is like. And so I just took all of those lessons and kind of banked them away for the moment when I'd be making this movie.
How surreal is it that, look, I mean, that's a ways ago, but it's not decades ago. I mean, it's like, this is still a relatively young career, that like now where you sit, you're fan casted in all this stuff. Like in Marvel and Bond and all of it. And it's like, that's an amazing position for any actor to be in. It must be very surreal and humbling to see like the fans and the excitement about you in all of these like kind of major properties potentially.
Kinda. It's a little overwhelming, to be honest. I'm a very, very simple creature, which is why I became an actor, is I say other people's words for a living. And the way that I keep that manageable is that I don't see a lot of that. I kind of try and focus on what's happening on set. Like on that side, not much changes. You turn up, you do the work, you say the words, you do your job. If all of that kind of noise and fireworks around the outside results in the scenery on set changing,
the actual work, and
getting to do bigger movies or different movies or more fantastical movies, then that's great. But otherwise, it's a bit of a distraction. And I'm glad people are enjoying it, but I can kind of only hold so much in my head, and I try to make that the script that I'm working on.
I think this is the healthier attitude. If you buy into it too much and if you focus on it too much, like you're not gonna be able to survive. Like mentally.
Pretty much. Exactly that. And so I focus on what we're doing on set and then how folks are receiving it. Like the treat that you get at the end of the job is getting to sit into a screening where people are enjoying the work that you did. And if folks are having a good time, then you know that, oh, this wasn't just us. This wasn't just us who were having a laugh on set. This was worth doing.
Look, it feels like you were shot out of a cannon a few years back, obviously, and the celebrity kind of like went from 0 to 60. Looking back in these last few short years, were you able to handle it well? Did you kind of like know what the coping mechanisms are? Are you still kind of feeling it out in terms of like finding your own space?
I definitely didn't know them in advance. It's been a bit of a learning experience. Again, I think the trick to most things is keep it simple. Like if people are enjoying what you're doing, be grateful for that. Have grace with that. And then try and give them more of that. Like if people want to enjoy what you're doing, then create things for them to enjoy. Create the environment in which you can keep making things for people to enjoy. And what that means for me is kind of holding my space and focusing on what hasn't changed. What has changed is that there's a desire to see the work I'm doing, which is kind of, what every actor wants. And what hasn't changed is that I go to set and I do that.
Is it true that your one criteria for taking on roles now is just to run through the Chris's? You did Evans, obviously on Gray Man. Pine on this.
It's just I'm collecting Chris's. I mean, I think Gosling's no slouch. It was nice to kind of study at the altar of Ryan Gosling. There's an element of kind of doing my internship here where I think it's cool to work with people that you aspire to. Working with folks like Chris, who know he's such a good team leader on this movie. He knows films so freaking well, but he's done so many that watching how he steers both the cast and the narrative of the film, a real privilege to be around. And then doing that both with Evans and Gosling, and Ana de Armas is no slouch, by the way, whilst also being directed by the Russo brothers. Like, it's just learning, it's learning how to kind of navigate these huge waters, how to steer these massive ships from the folks who are experts at it. And then you can kind of keep stepping up and taking up more and more space in these places. But I don't think it's any bad thing to study at the altar of the masters.
Yeah, surround yourself with the best. Last thing for you, like we talked kind of like about the idea of being focusing on the work. That's your rudder. That's the way to do it, right? At the same time, you get these kind of fun, silly experiences. Like I think you were at the Vanity Fair party the other day where it's like every cool person on the planet is in one room. Is that still mind-blowing? Like, did you run into anyone that just blew your mind? Are you able to kind of keep your inner fanboy contained?
Generally, I can keep the fanboy contained, and then Jay-Z just kind of saunters past, and you're like, okay, that didn't happen. That's not a real thing. No, it's cool. It's empowering more than it is mind-blowing. It's kind of being among your peers and going, oh man, I'm among my peers, and kind of having conversations with people that you admire, and them kind of talking about having seen stuff that you've done. And you're like, why? Why are you spending your time watching my stuff? But that's super cool, and kind of exchanging knowledge and experience. It's just kind of taking that experience in and taking it for what it is and enjoying it is what stops it from being overwhelming.
Right.
You know?